Hi everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Lab, Canvas Advanced Audio Queuing, a session designed to elevate your understanding and application of advanced audio techniques. I'm Dan Nagel, founder and CEO of Tech Direction, and today's training is proudly hosted by Lighthouse Festival in their Port Dover theater space. We're thrilled to be joined today by Chris Baine, one of the lead developers at Canvas. Chris is a highly respected theatrical sound designer, having worked on over 200 live productions. His innovative approaches to sound design and audio technology have set new standards in the industry. Chris currently serves as the principal audio platform developer at Sphere Entertainment Company, where he led the development of the groundbreaking audio systems for the Las Vegas Sphere, one of the most advanced entertainment venues in the world. His work has ensured crystal clear sound and personalized audio experiences for every audience member at this revolutionary venue. In today's session, Chris will dive into the advanced workflows in Canvas, Avae's cutting-edge sound design and show control software. Canvas is designed to lower the technical barriers to creativity in sound design for live performances, offering a non-linear user interface that lets you connect sound effects, music, and other elements seamlessly. It features a redesigned cue list, multitrack editing, and real-time control capabilities, making it easier to create dynamic and flexible sound designs. For more information, resources, or to get in touch with our team, visit our website at techdirection.com or find us on social media. If you'd like help with any specific projects, email us at projects@techdirection.com. Thanks for joining us, Chris. The stage is yours.
I'm going to go ahead and just start off by telling you a little bit about me. My background is as a professional sound designer. I've been sound designing for about 20 years. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. region, where I've designed hundreds of shows in the area and throughout the country over the years. Since about 2018, 2017, I decided I was really having issues with the current software and the current state of the software in the world as far as what we use as sound designers. And so I decided to start building Canvas from that. And I released version 1 in the winter of 2019, and everybody knows what happens after that. So I threw away version 1 and I've started on version 2, which is a completely different build from the core of it. I'll tell you more about that in a second. Since then, I've done things like work with XLaser as a software developer, and I currently work for Sphere Entertainment doing software for them, plus show support and building commissioning and things like that. So I have a wide variety of experience, but Canvas is my favorite thing that I do out of all of it because it's the thing that is closest to me as an artist and as a designer. So again, as I mentioned, I think that there's a lot of stuff in the world as designers that we have to interact with and to solve on a daily basis. And I felt very highly that our tools were not helping us to solve them, especially as audio designers. And so I created Canvas. When Canvas came around, I had some pretty lofty goals with it, and I've been able to accomplish some of those with version 2. Version 2 has opened up the door to server-client capabilities as well as cross-platform capabilities. So we now have the ability to work on Windows and Linux, as well as have multiple engines and multi-client facing software. So this is Canvas. So Canvas is a non-linear based show control and audio playback software. It's meant to bring you into the way that you're used to working, but it also allows for far more advanced capabilities. So we'll go ahead and get started. The way that we do this is just by creating a new workspace. And this is going to immediately ask you what you want to save it as, because we go ahead and save that to disk. We create a folder for you that is where we store all your audio files, all your image files, any Midi files you have, any sort of compilation of files, we go ahead and save that. So we'll just call this demo, and I'll just save it on my desktop for now. Next thing it's going to ask you is your username. So who are you? And because the reason is because we are a client server sort of functionality, it automatically has that built in from the root. So we're going to go ahead and ask you who you are. So I'm Chris, and we'll go ahead and create that as a user. Now, when you first launch the system, it's going to ask you if you want to open a basic view or open an advanced view. I always do advanced view. You can, if you're used to working in other programs like QLab or SES or any sort of list-based thing, our basic view sort of gives you that functionality off the start. So that's a good starting point. But for this, we're going to go ahead and start with our advanced view. Now, when I say that Canvas is a nonlinear piece of software, what I mean is that we can add what I call objects. And these objects have different functionalities. There's 3 different basic types of functionalities. There's the control temp elements, audio elements, and external elements. And so control will do exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to control internally within Canvas. Audio is going to do exactly that. It's going to either pass audio or play audio or manipulate audio in some way. And external is anything talking to systems outside of Canvas. So this sort of object-based or element-based is the term that I mostly used, is nice because then you can add all of these different types of elements and wire them up to each other to control each other. So the idea is that you have created these elements to be able to sort of cascade and build out your system, right? So however you need as a designer, you can then create. So there's a couple Q&As in here. What is Canvas? Yes, it is like Max MSP. It allows for you to be able to connect up anything to anything, right? So there's a whole control system we'll go through, as well as the audio system. So one of the things about Canvas is that when you go ahead and create your folder here, I'll go ahead and show you. When you go ahead and create your session, it goes ahead and creates a folder wherever you've decided to save it. And again, this is so that we can save your database and we can save any sort of additional information throughout the entire to this file, to this folder, right? So anything that happens in here, including audio files or image files. We can get Canvas started really easily by just doing something as simple as just taking an audio file and dragging it onto your canvas. So you can see that it's uploading files, which means it's uploading it to the server. It's also copying those files to that folder that we had on the desktop here. So it's called demo. So it's copied that file into this folder here. And you can see it's gone ahead and added that element for us. Another way we could do this, if we are doing our basic view, so let's just switch to our basic view, is by either clicking this folder button here or hitting this plus button, which will allow you to add new elements. This is what you would see if you opened up the basic view. And we can just come in here and we can select some audio files. Let's just do a small one for now. And it will go ahead and add it as a queue here. And then you can build your queue list in the same way that you're sort of used to. But the root of it is that there are elements as objects as part of your entire system. Now to go from there, let's talk about the control system. So the control system of Canvas is basically the ability to hook up any element on you have from one element to another to control each element. So there's 2 types of ports that you have in Canvas. So you have an audio port, so you have audio out ports, audio in ports. These are currently called multitrack elements, so there's no audio in. And then you have control ports, and you can see that there are 3 control ports here on the inside and 3 on the outside on this multi-track element. On the trigger element, you have 1 in and 2 out at the moment. So if we were to add something like, let's say we have a slider, it's currently got only 1 out and 1 in at the moment. And we can hook these 2 up and you can see that they control each other. I could then take that and hook it up to a port here on my multi-track element, and I can have that port control, let's say, my main level, and I can have that, let's not hook it up to that. Let's hook it up to the main level. And if I came here to my mixer tab, we should see that control the main level here in the multi-track element. So it's a powerful way of just sort of creating and controlling the elements the way that you would like them to be. The way that this works is through what we call actions. And on every element, you have the ability, and I sort of showed this a second ago, to add as many actions as you want here. So you have action groups, and this would be what's happening in that port. That port can then have multiple parameters to it. So if I wanted to add a secondary thing in here, I could. What's interesting about these is that you can set them up to sort of do whatever you want. We go ahead on the multi-track element and give you 3 different ports. And this is so that we sort of have the most atypical things that you would use as a designer ready to go for you. So we have a fire, we have a fire, a fade in, and a fire and a fade out. And so if I went ahead and let's delete that from there, I can add things to my cue list by either right-clicking on it and saying add to queue list, or I can, come into my basic and hit add to queue list here. There's a number of ways of doing this, but you can see it's gone ahead and added. I think if you Control Option click, it will add it. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. It's added this element to that queue list. I'm hidden behind the zoom thing. So in the queue list, you can see over here on the right that it's giving you an action drop down. So the queue itself will fire the fire queue from this queue list. Is basically targeting that action on that object. And we could target that action on that object from a trigger, or we can target it from a queue in a queue list. Now, if I wanted to fire the fade out, I could add that same element again and make sure it fires that fade out. So basically your queue lists and your queues are targeting those elements that exist. Hopefully that makes sense. With your queue list, if I just rolled this, well, actually, let me just make sure my audio card is set up. Okay. So if I hit play, hopefully you guys can hear that. You should be able to hear that. So now I have it firing, and then I have a fire fade out. So if I hit go, it'll fire it, it's starting, and then I roll it again, it should be firing the fade out. And you can hear that sort of roll away. So those are already ready to go for you, ready and built. When you drop in an audio file, it goes, like I said, it goes ahead and copies it to that folder. We have a palette view, which shows you where what files are included in that folder. So if you wanted to add it, again, you have it able to drag from this sort of queue list. So that's sort of the basics for actions. Every element sort of has as many actions as are available to you, and you can add as many as you'd like I said, and then you can cascade any of these together. You could do the same thing on, I'll answer that question, on the audio system. So if we wanted to connect up a element to one of these, like the panner to let's say the hi-hat, the hi-hat sound effect here, I can just connect up the hi-hat to this panner via the audio signal, right? So now I'm tracing the audio signal through and being able to send it out and go from there and send it out from the audio. There's a couple different things that you can see in Canvas as far as lines and connections are concerned. We have a regular sort of line here from one element to another. So that's a control line. You have a blue one, which is your audio line. And then you have these little guys, which are called flags. And if I go ahead and I can say this is a flag, it's basically the same thing as a line, except without the line showing. So it's a way of keeping yourself clean in the entire system. Now, in order to be able to get audio out of Canvas, we'll sort of work our way back. But from an element, you can sort of right click on one of these output ports, and then you can connect up to the audio system. And since this panner is already connected up to that audio system, it's grayed out. So you can't actually connect from there. Going to my audio preferences, this would be where I would set up that sound card. So you guys sort of saw it a second ago. I can set up my input device and I can set up my output device. And then I can do cross patches between the system and the output. And so this is sort of an abstract way of doing your sound card. So you could set up your entire system and then be able to abstractly connect to different sound cards depending on where your use case is. So I have this system, it's called main system. So there's 2 tabs on here at the top, the user, and you can see user Chris has this sound card, right? And it's using the main system. If I went in here and I added a new system, so I can add a new system in here and I can call this my, lobby system. I could make this a 4x4 system. So let's say I have 4 input channels, 4 output channels, and it's all 1-to-1 through here. I'll set those up. When I go over here back to my users, you can see that my lobby system is an option as well. So what's happening is your audio element is sending to a system. That system is then connecting to your devices however you want to. Again, this enables you to be able to move between different spaces or different system setups easily. There was a question, can you skip around on an audio track for rehearsals? Yeah, I'll just show you that real quick. In a multi-track, I'll come back to the multi-track, but yeah, you can easily just sort of tap around on a multi-track. Hopefully that answers your question. We'll come back to details about multi-tracks in a second, but I wanted to get through the output side. So hopefully this all makes sense. So we can have 2 different systems going at the same time, or per user, right? So I can have one user connected to the lobby system, and I have another user connected to the main system, because we are a multi-engine system. So I have a Mac Mini out in the lobby, and my Mac Mini running the show is the main system. So and then however I want to connect from one to the other is sort of up to me. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if there's any questions along that line. So again, just to roll through the logic of it, you connect an audio out of an element to a system. So like I said, we're connected to the main system here. If we wanted to connect to a different system, like we had the ability to connect to the lobby as well, we could do that here on this output. And then that goes to the system here and then goes to your user. So per user connects to whatever system you want to go to. That's sort of the hardest thing that most people have to grasp, get their minds around, because it is a multi-user, multi-engine system. You have to think about it a little bit differently. Within audio elements, so let's just go through a few of the things in the view in different types of elements, and we'll keep chucking along as we get it. Please send as many questions as you have. Again, I always feel like I'm talking into a void when I'm on Zoom. Over here on your left, you see your element list. This is the elements that you have currently here on your canvas. So this sort of open space that we have here is what we call our canvas. And of course, we can have multiple canvases. And if I go ahead and add, it's called the canvas list view. If I add a new canvas, you can see I have a new blank canvas here, and this can have its own sort of setup of elements and element lists, and I can switch between the two. Down here in the bottom, if you select an element, you're going to get all the different detail views and information about that element that element is able to do. So for every element, you have a few basic options available to you. So there's things like name and color. Let's not keep it that color. Show in production, hidden, so I could hide an element if I want to. I could set flags on it. You have your actions tab. You have your connections tab. So this is sort of who's connected to what to help things to be a little easier. And then you sort of have details. So for example, here in the trigger element, you have the ability to sort of create it as a toggle, change the color of the buttons, change the alternate color of the button. So if it is pushed, you have it. And you have the ability to go on beat, but I'll go on a little bit more on that later. You can name it as well, so that'll show up here, as well as we have the ability to do things like say I want 4 buttons. And you can see when I added those 4 buttons, it went ahead and gave me those 4 buttons as output ports. So it should be pretty obvious how you could then connect from there, right? Like if I want to fire off a button 3, it's going to come out of object or port 3. So if we go to some of the more advanced elements, such as the multi-track, which is one of the bigger ones that we have to get through. In the multi-track element, you have the ability to sort of work like a DAW. So the way that you're sort of normally used to working as a sound designer is how this operates. So I can come in here and I can actually layer multiple files together. Let's add another couple of files. So these are all sort of files that are meant to go together. So I just sort of drag and drop in there and it's ready to go. I can come in here and I can edit. I can trim the way that I'm sort of used to. I can do front trim. I can do fade ins, fade outs on these guys, as well as just slide them around on the DAW. So every track has the ability to do mute and solo as well as level automation. And so I can come in here and actually do additional automation on top of that. The multi-track element is built to be beat-based. So everything that you'll see is sort of bar, beat, tick, however you want to call it, in here. So everything, as you can change tempo, so we have different tempo adjustments, will adjust to sort of what you're trying to accomplish. So if I set that 100, it will adjust all my things accordingly, and move and slide things down timelines. The element itself has the ability to sort of loop on itself, so it'll loop this whole thing, and you can do that by adjusting the end time of that element. You can loop individual clips, as well as be able to do a lot of different random stuff with these clips. So if you double click on a clip, you can see how it's sort of edited. So it'll give you a start time and an end time, and we'll give it to you sort of as a beat. So if I came in here and I did a little edit on this guy, you can see it made the edit here on the timeline. Now it's not doing the same over here because this is a completely different clip. Let's see if there's anything else on the clips to talk about. You can do things like snap to grid as well. Within the multi-track element, you have different track types. So you can add mono tracks, you can add stereo tracks, you can group tracks. So if I wanted to, put some things in a group, I can, and hide it away. So if this is all my drums, for example, I can sort of hide it away from everything. So I can keep myself pretty clean without having to exert a lot of energy, right? So for me as a designer, that's always the number one thing, is organization and cleanliness, in order to be able to go find something and be able to deal with it later. You can add multiple tracks at the same time, as well as multi-track tracks. So if you have a 7.1 file, that will work fine in here. If you have a 64-channel file, that will work fine in here. In the multi-track element, you can add control tracks in here, and these are basically empty clips, which allow you to sort of create control automation, and this control automation means that it will add an output port for you. So you can see on this element, it added a control output port for me here, and that's going to output this from that track. Let me just we also have MIDI tracks as well, so you can click on this and do sort of a normal MIDI edit. Let me go ahead and answer a couple of these questions. Multiple canvases can all be combined into a single cue list. So you can use multiple canvases to add organization to a complex show. Is there any performance hit for multiple canvases? No. So canvases are an abstract concept. Technically, all elements are the same. Under the hood, it's just a database of elements. So multiple canvases don't take a performance hit. You can combine those up into cue lists however you want. The other thing I haven't shown down here is that you can add multiple cue lists as well. So all these are doing is then targeting those elements. So it's going to be however you want to build your show and organize your show. Canvases are just a logical way of organizing things, right? They don't actually hold any sort of memory allocation or anything like that. So they're just, to a user on the face of it, an abstract concept, so you can organize your show easier, right? Can you easily route to independent speakers? I saw the panner, but not sure how to define what speakers it goes to. So let's start from here then. Let's go to this hi-hat element. I dragged and dropped it in. You can see it automatically added it to the system. And this main system is just looks like a mono system. So this main system is just a stereo system. So if I go to this mixer tab, I haven't gotten to this yet. In all my audio elements, I have the ability to go to this mixer tab. This mixer tab shows you how you're connected to that system. So you can see we have this hi-hat cross point track in the multi-track element, and then that is connected up to this main system. If I went over to here to this hi-hat guy, you can see that it has the same hi-hat track. So if I have this single track here, which is stereo, and then it's connected to this panner, and this panner is only a single input panner. So at the moment, it's a single input panner. So you can see it only has a single channel. Now, if I also then connected this guy up to my main system, you'll see that my main system sort of comes in here as an additional thing I can route to. So you're doing all of your routing and level adjustments in the mixer tab here for any of these audio elements. You can view these as inputs, you can view these as outputs, and you can view these as a matrix. I tend to think of everything as a matrix mixer. Hopefully that answers your question. So if I wanted to route to a specific speaker, let's say this is left and this is right, I can just adjust one individually from there. I can, turn it off to go to left and turn that off to go to right. If I was going to the lobby system, let's send this one to the lobby system as well. And these are 4 different individual channels. I wanted to go to 3, then that's how I would send that track to channel 3. To that specific speaker. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys behind the scenes. So looking at the mixer track here again, within the multi-track, you can see it's giving me all 3 of those tracks. So I have 3 audio tracks in here. It's giving me those 3 tracks as the ability to mix as cross points on a matrix. And then that's how I would send to the main system. I also have a master with mute. And I can hide channels if I don't want to see them in here. The other thing about multi-track elements is I have the ability to add what we call markers. And you can see the markers add ports here on the element itself. So you can use these as basically bangs going out to trigger things at that point in a song. These markers also have the ability to do, so right now it's set up to be none trigger only. You can set it up to sort of either basically to loop within the element. So I can tell it to go to start, go to end, go to a random marker, or go to a specific marker. So I can use marker 1 to jump to marker 3, to jump to marker 2, etc. However you want to do that, or you can just make it a trigger. So we can use these to say, at this point in the track, I want you to send a trigger out this control port to do something else. So there was a cool demo a friend of mine did where he basically had markers in a song for every lighting cue change, and it would just output a go via OSC or Midi to the light console to tell it to go at every marker. And so it would just roll the lighting console in time with the music. And so all they had to do was look at the wave file and drop a marker and say this is where it wants to go, without having to think too hard about it. And if that marker's in the wrong place, they just drag it to the right place. Or if it's rolling, you can hit the plus button. That's track. You can hit this little button right here, which will add a marker wherever the playhead is. So if I move my playhead to, here towards the end, I can hit that marker and it'll drop a marker where that playhead is. Within all audio elements as well, we have the ability to add fades. So fades are a different concept than what most people are used to. Fades are like scenes within the element. So you can sort of, they live within the element and you target them within the element. The reason this is cool is if you're going to do something like a musical and you have a level for singing. So you're doing a tracked musical, and you have a level for singing and then you have a level for dialogue. You could literally set your singing level as the normal level, and then you can set a dialogue fade. So I could come in here and say add fade, and I want this to be my dialogue. And I would like it to go down, let's take it down 6 dB every time. All you need to do in order to get it to go normal level to dialogue level to normal level is trigger between this restore levels and this dialogue, right? So it would restore levels, restores it back to where it is. Dialogue brings it down to where it's going to go. And then you just set up cues that just trigger those two fades. You don't have to think about it too much. And then in the middle of tech, when the director, or the middle of a show, when a director is like, hey, that dialogue level is far too loud. Can you take it down another 3 dB? You don't have to go to 20 different places to make that change. You can just make that change in one place. So you just affect that there, and voila, you're ready to go. Yeah, so that is the basics of all audio elements. There are different types of audio elements that we have. So we have a multi-track element. We have a single track element, and I'll go ahead and show this a little bit as well. This allows you to basically work as you're sort of used to, as like it only fires one track at a time. And you can set this up as a playlist. So if you're going to do a pre-show playlist or a post-show intermission playlist, the single track element's really good for that. You can use this to do a random or a random once. So I can say, one of those things that they do in video games is a lot is sort of this random once thing, and they'll set up 10 footstep tracks and then have a MIDI trigger to do walking, and then you're getting a little bit of that randomness every time, so it's not quite as consistent as just playing back and forth between two tracks. That's the basics of it. You can crossfade between tracks for the playlist and the random as well. So it's not quite a single track, but it is the basic concept of a single track. Is there a time limit on playlists and tracks? No, not that I am aware of. It should have no issue playing as long as you'd like it to. It also has the ability to do things like infinite loops. So if you wanted to come in here and say loop it infinitely, you can. So it shouldn't have any time limits on any of that. If you find that that's an issue, let me know and I'll fix it. I think we've done 40-minute tracks before and not had any issues. So that's the single track. I'm just going to roll through these pretty quickly. There's a delay matrix that you can pull in here. So if you're doing a bunch of delay in your system, you can do that there. We have the panner I'll come back to. We have a noise element, so you can just do basic speaker checks. We have a mixer element, so if you actually do want to submix a bunch of things. So let's say you have a number of music tracks, and all the music tracks have the same mix throughout. Again, let's go back to that tracked musical. You could route all of those to a mixer and have that mixer do your routing for you. So you can come in here and say, set up how you want this to sort of work in the sound system. And then you don't have, if you need to change that music mix, you don't have to do that 1,000 different places. You can just do that in one place. And I keep sort of alluding to this, but that's sort of the root of this, is how can I cut back on duplication and how can I only do it once? And in software development, there's this concept called dry, which is don't repeat yourself. I guess other people have the same concept, but if you find yourself repeating yourself in a design or in a program, something's wrong, something's a problem. So that's what sort of Canvas and the object-based elements sort of help you with as well. That's pretty much all the audio elements except for the panner. So let's go ahead and talk about the panner. The panner is basically that. It is the ability to take an input and route it to two outputs, or as many outputs as you want. So if you go to your sources, so there's two tabs over here. There's sources and destinations. So right now I only have one source and two destinations. So this is a mono in to stereo out. I can come in here and add a couple more if I wanted to and move these around. So now I have a quad system. I could create a stereo in to more out if I would like to. But for now, this is however you want it. This is enough for now. So what's interesting about this is that then I can create overlap between these outputs. So it's a UI based thing. And the amount of overlap is how much it's going to crossfade between the two. So if I have no overlap, there's literally no crossfade. If I have lots of overlap, there's lots of crossfade. So I take my input, which is this little dot here, to my outputs, and the closer I get to center is the closer it is to unity, right? So the closer I am to the edge, the closer it is to off. So as I move through these, I can have it sort of pan through the house by just moving through these different dots. Hopefully that makes sense. Is the mixer available in production mode? Yes, it is. Should be. If it's not, let me know. I will. I'm answering a question. So from the Q&A, is the mixer available in production mode? Yes. If it's not in production mode, let me know. If there's something missing in production mode that you'd like to see, let me know. I'm happy to add it. It should be there. I guess I could test that. Shown production, enable production mode. Yeah. I don't think you can do anything in it. Well, maybe you can mix in it. Oh no, I have it editable. Let's turn that off. You'll get meters in production mode. If you'd like more than that, let me know. Somebody's jumping the gun on production mode. So can you easily import canvases? So another question on the Q&A is, can you easily import canvases between different files if I set up something complex and want to reuse it? Yes and no. There's certain ways that we can do this. There was something in version 1 that we had that was enabled you to do this. In version 2 at the moment, I would like the ability to be able to bring in elements from other canvases. At the moment, it doesn't exist. But currently in Canvas version 2, you can set up templates. So if I wanted to set up a complex panner template, I could do that here with, multiple sources and multiple destinations. And then I can do things like export it. So I can export it as a template and then re-import it as a template into my secondary file. The way that you would then use that is you can right click on the element or your canvas and you can see it as an option to add as your new template, right? So that's one way of doing it right now. I would like the ability to bring in complex elements in the long run. I just haven't done that yet, so good question. Going back to the panner for a second, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around. So the closer it is to the center of the pan, the more loud it is. The thing about this is that the panner element is channels. So you don't have to think of it as outputs. You can think of it as channels. So we could say, this dot here is my dry mix and this one is my wet mix. And then my wet mix routes to a reverb unit, right? And then so on and so forth. You don't have to think about this in the ways that you would think about a normal spatial system, right? You're not directly addressing speakers, you're directly addressing channels. So it's just a channel mix panner. In the same way you have a pan knob, this is just a complex pan knob. Or, it's great because a pan knob can also be used as a spatial thing. So we can set this up as a quad system, right? And then have this panner route one-to-one to my quad system. And as I move this little dot through my quad system, you'll see it, hear it move through your space. For each of the sources, you have the ability to sort of name it, change the color, mute. You can do a record enable, and so we can come over here and hit record, and I can actually just move this around however I want to and unrecord it, and that will save it as a path. So this gets us into paths. We can create new paths. So you can see that record just made a new path for me. I can delete that, or I can say, hey, I want to actually add a path. So I can come in here and add a path, and I can draw it directly. So I can just come in here and say, there's my path, done, and draw it. And then what you need to do with a path is you need to attach it to something. So a path has no clue what it's supposed to be talking to. You've got to go to the object and say, hey, actually this object, either this input or this output, right? So I can actually move outputs as well as inputs if I had that kind of need. I'm going to bind this input object to this path. So now if I run this path, that input object is going to follow it. On the paths, I have the ability to sort of add a pre-delay to it. I can loop it as many times as I want. I can reverse it. So this one's one of my favorite. If I hit play on it, it's going to bounce. So now it'll bounce back and do the opposite of what it was. You can hide and you can draw it, and you can change these points however you want to. Within paths, you can do path grouping, and path grouping allows you to have a play button for all the subgroups, so you can fire multiple paths at the same time. Hopefully that all makes sense. With paths, with sources and destinations, you have the ability to record a path, mute and solo, as well as these OSC tabs. So if I come over here to this OSC button, I have an OSC in and an OSC out. So OSC out, when enabled, will allow me to select different types of OSC I can send directly from this panner. So when this object moves, it will send XYZ coordinates out of the OSC output. We have a couple different things in here. We have a generic version, so you can just set up however you want that XYZ to sort of send. Soundscape, space map, Lisa, spat, sad, any of the major sort of spatial things at the moment, you can use this to control them. And that's one of the big things about a lot of these is they don't really have path automation, or they don't have, path automation with queuing in the way that I would like it to be. So, I can just use this panner to sort of work with them without having to think too hard about it. You could use, this is also going to pass audio, but if you're going to pass audio, if you don't need it to pass audio, we can use a different element for this as well. OSC input's the same. So if I enable OSC input, I can come in here and have this object respond to the same stuff from the same OSC data from any of the major spatializers. You can loop a path. You can loop a path infinitely. I'm answering a Q&A again. I feel like I'm talking into the void. So thanks for asking the questions. Yes, you can loop a path as many times as you want. And you do that by coming over here to the loop tab in the paths. One of the other interesting things about the panner is that if you come over here to your basics tab in the panner, you can set the different envelope type for how these circles sort of respond to each other. You can set up how you want to, it redrew itself awkwardly. You can set up the distance you want, and you can do things like invert the object. So it accidentally inverted for some reason. And so what invert means, and I'll add a new panner for this because it's a little bit more interesting. So if I go to this new panner and I say invert, it now means that the input is the circle and the output is the dot. So the input is now the output and the output's now the input. So what that means is that I can come in here and add multiple inputs and have those be the overlap. And then I'm going to actually get rid of one of these output objects. So now I have one mono output. It's this little dot right here, and 3 inputs. Now those 3 inputs, let's say this one could be my forest sound effects. This one could be city sound effects. And this one could be ocean sound effects. And I could do it like a video game. I can move this dot between those different sound effects however I'd like it to work. Which I think is pretty cool. I've yet to use it in a show, but I'm dying to sort of track an actor through different things, however, live and without a lot of fun on it. Another Q&A question: what are the expansion options? Custom scripting, creating new modules. Coming. There's not any scripting in here yet. It's coming. It's a big lift, so we're working on that. Creating new modules as far as like new elements. If you have a request for an element, I tend to be pretty quick about some of that stuff. I had someone doing a show who wanted a clock element to be able to fire something on time, and that's where the clock element here got made. So there's some, if you talk to me on Discord, I'm happy to build. There's some stuff that will be in here in the future that you can build your own as well. So good question. So I guess I sort of alluded to this. I'm also, another Q&A is how do you submit requests for elements? The big thing for us is if in order to get the beta of Canvas, I'm sort of jumping around a ton. In order to get Canvas, you need to sign up to Discord. So you go through our website. There's a Discord link there. On the Discord in one of our channels is all the links for downloading Canvas. We are on Discord all the time. If you need help, if you have a question, if you want to learn something, if you have an idea, we're always there. You can submit it that way. We currently also set up a repo for our wiki, and you can find it. I'll see if I can get the link and send it to everybody after this. And it has all of our documentation as well as the ability to submit ideas or bugs that you find via GitHub. So I think it's pretty cool. We set this up a couple weeks ago and it's working really nicely. So both ways work for us. Okay, so the panner is pretty cool. I can do a ton of things with it. I want to stress that it's not a spatial panner necessarily, but it can be used as spatial panner in the same way that a pan knob on a console works. This is just a multi-channel pan knob. You can do things like add images to it, and this is where you would get, I don't think I have any images I can share. This is where you can add background images and things like that. So if you wanted to overlay your speaker map, you could do that. I think that's everything within the panner. Shall we go through some of the control elements? Let's go through some of the control elements. As far as control elements, I have a few things. So I have what I call a meta element, and this controls your cue list. And this is, I'm going to start with this because then I can go through the cue list a little bit more. You can, of course, have multiple cue lists here. So like I showed you a second ago, you can have multiple cue lists. Let's go ahead and add a couple to this cue list. But what's really interesting about Canvas is that the playhead and the cue list aren't attached. So if I go here to my preferences, I can set up multiple playheads in here. So I can add another playhead, and we'll call this Chris's playhead. And then let's add another one, and we'll call this the tech direction playhead. And these playheads can respond to via MIDI notes. You can change the color, you can remove them, as well as control via MIDI and OSC. So now I've had 3 different playheads. Well, on my cue lists, I can tell which playhead to do what. So right now I'm currently selected on the primary playhead. But if I wanted to, let's change the color of this real quick to be a little easier. I'm just going to add a bunch of cues in here real fast to sort of get the point across. I'll have this meta element control the primary playhead. I'll have a secondary meta element control Chris's playhead, and a third meta element control the tech direction playhead. So now if I hit go on the primary playhead, you can see it sort of going down the list. If I hit go on Chris's, it's not on the list at the moment, but I can sort of move it in and hit go on it as well. And then the same with the tech direction playhead. So it's down there at the bottom, and go and whatnot. So what this means is that you can have a playhead for your designer and a playhead for your operator, and neither of the two shall meet. These playheads can sort of jump between different lists as well. Oh, you found the GitHub. So I can set up different cue types as well. So if you think of this like you're doing a ride or you're doing an attraction, you can do, somebody's in a roller coaster and you have your cues going throughout the roller coaster. Every car has its own playhead. So as they get to that point in the system, you could set it up so that each playhead triggers the right cues at the right time. Again, the most ubiquitous sort of example is the designer operator or multi-designer, since we have multiple clients, to have their own playhead at the same time. Again, so, I could actually have tech direction over on this playlist too, while these other guys are on this one. Or I guess that's primary. Primary is over here on this playlist, and then the other guys are over here playing on this playlist at the same time. So because the different clients could also be looking at different things, the primary could be the operator and stuff like that. So within the cue lists, I can actually add different types of cues. So I can group cues. I can add an empty cue if I don't know what I want it to target yet, and then target it later. I can add in target cues. So I can say, hey, I would like this cue to go to, this specific element. So I have to remember how to do this. Oh, yeah. So you just click here and say, I'd like you to actually go to this other queue list right here. And that will then take whatever playhead you're on and send it to that other queue list. So it should go over here to piano high. It looked like a bug. We can add in go-to queues as well. So I guess target queue will actually play the queue, and go-to will send it to that queue. So if I did the same thing over here and sent it to that main queue list, I should get it over here on that main queue list. So there's go-to queues and then there's target queues. So I can have a queue play another queue as well. And this is going to get expanded as further as we go. If there are other ideas you might have as far as like triggering within queue lists or moving around within queue lists, let me know. I'm happy to add more. One of the things that I need to add here in the meta element is the ability to sort of trigger a specific queue or go to a specific queue. We have group elements, which says that I can take all these meta elements and I could group them. And now I have a group element, and that group element, if I double click on it, how do I go into it? It's been a while. If I go into it, you can see that it has all of those elements that I just grouped together, and you can see it's sort of given me a super group. And I can go back with this little arrow here. Again, we have a clock element, so you could trigger things on time. We have a trigger element, which gives you a bunch of buttons, as well as they can be toggleable buttons. We have logic elements, which give you sort of ifs statements, so you can do sort of ifs with it. We have the XY element, which is the same thing as the panner element for the most part, except it does not pass audio, right? So you can set up paths here. You can use it to trigger OSC externally, everything except for pass audio. So that way, if you're just using it to communicate with like Soundscape or something, you can just use the XY element. We have an AB switch, so if you need, another custom logic for switching between options, you can use that. We have a slider, which I've already sort of shown you. That's sort of all the control elements. I'm not going to talk about state because state is pretty complicated. That'll have to happen in an advanced session. For external stuff, we have the ability to generate timecode and respond to timecode. So this is either the generator or the trigger. We have the ability to output OSC or input OSC, take an input OSC string or an output OSC string, send MIDI, obviously. We can send network strings, so you only have the ability at the moment to send a network string, but at some point we'll do an input network string. And then we have the ability to do Ableton Link stuff. So you can control, if you're using Ableton Link between multiple parts of your system, so if like the conductor is using it to keep things in time, you could trigger Ableton Link changes from Canvas, which is pretty cool to me. Like, I can, it's only controlling it. It's not, the master clock. I guess it has to be the master clock because it's a peer-to-peer thing, but you can use it in that way. To set up a lot of these things, you can go here to your preferences and set it up. Again, this is one of the things that trips most people up, is that it's abstracted because you're a multi-engine system. So different users can have different settings for how OSC works or different settings for how MIDI works. So you can come in here, add different things, and you would set it up per user. So if you had a lobby user and a main board user and your designer user, each one would set things up a little differently if they were all engines. And you'd set this all up in here. Another thing on the audio side is you do have plugins. If you're on a Mac, you have the ability to do AUs. If you're on a PC, you clearly don't have the ability to do AUs. You can do VST3s, and that's about it. You can edit your users, you can edit your playheads and edit templates. Wow, you guys sort of got through almost everything. Is there anything else I'm missing? Does anybody? Oh, so you can do active queue list as well. So anything that's active, it will show up over here in your active list. We have the palette. We have the ability to do chat. So if you have multiple people online, you can chat with each other. I'll talk about globals for 1 second. So globals has the ability to, on a per user or per engine basis, be able to turn down levels, so input, output, or mute, as well as disable different parts of your system. So you can disable OSC, disable Midi, or disable Link, either per client or globally. I should probably add a master fader in here for all your engines too, so I'll do that. As far as pricing is concerned, answering another question on the Q&A, there is no pricing at the moment. It is free. And it's free and stable as far as I'm aware. The reason it is still in beta is for twofold. One, because I was going to release it last year and then I opened Sphere. And two, I still have a lot of features I'd like to add before we really get into releasing it as a thing. If you guys have opinions on pricings and things like that, please let me know for the long run. I'd like to talk about the transport window here for a second. So before I get into too much. So we have what I refer to as sort of like a global transport, and I'll go ahead and drop it down here is where I like it to live. This global transport is exactly what you'd think in like a DAW. You have, if you're in Pro Tools, you have your global transport with your play button and your playhead, and that moves down that timeline. But if you think of that in the same way with Canvas, Canvas has a global transport. You saw it was running when I pulled it up. As soon as I fire anything in this program, it's going to run that clock. And what it's doing is basically just running all the time. What that enables me to do then is it's giving me a tempo and it's giving me a meter in the trigger element at the moment and future elements soon. I can say stuff like fire on beat. So now that that clock is rolling, I could add in, let's just add another trigger, for example, and I'll do this under a fire any. You guys go away. Let's group all those. So now if I hit any of these buttons, you'll see it waits till it hits a 0 and then fires for me. So it's going to trigger things on beat. Now more of that stuff is coming. So more tempo triggers and more ability to sort of adjust things to beat is something that's happening over time. So if you have more ideas on that, please let me know. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not just I feel like I'm talking so fast. You have messages are just going to be any errors you have. You have monitors such as Timecode monitor, OSC monitor you could set up here and keep an eye on things. That was what I needed to talk about. So with any of the elements, you can then add them in your basic view to say show in production. And so if I come over here to view, I can say enable production mode. And since I didn't set that up very well, we'll edit production mode. I want this button to sort of look a little nicer, to sort of look like this. And then I can come and say turn off edit production mode. What this means is when you're in non-edited production mode, it sort of locks you out of everything, right? So like all you get is exactly the points that we've allowed you to have. You can write some notes and you can hit these buttons and that's it. So you can sort of set up how you want your user, your operator look at things and not have to have everything all at once. You can sort of just, again, it's production mode, it's show mode, it's how you want to think about these details. Hopefully that makes sense as well. I think that's pretty cool. You can set it up however you'd like it to look. And every element sort of allows you different parameters as well. There's so much to Canvas. I feel like I've barely touched the surface on everything. Can you skip audio tracks around in production mode like you were in the multi-tracks earlier? No, I think at the moment you only get a playhead. So you're only going to get the play stop buttons on the multi-track. Here, I'll add one and we can find out. Show in production and enable production mode. Yeah, so all you're going to get is a clock and 3 buttons. Clearly it's going to overlay them weirdly. If I wanted to edit these a little bit more, I can to sort of fit a little bit better together. And then I can come over here to say undo edit. So this will give you this. I like the idea of adding the ability to sort of go to marker. So you could set up a marker down your timeline and say go to. I'm pretty sure you have that ability on the within your multi-track options on your actions. So if I said actions, I can come down to, well, let's add a couple markers first. If I'm in my actions, I should have markers. And then right now it's just devamp, but I should give you the ability to go to that marker. So if you set it up so that you could set up buttons to say, go to this rehearsal point or go to this rehearsal point as well, that would also help answer your question right there. But yes, I will add that for you. I mean, that's the big most of Canvas. We have the ability to do layouts. So if you had different ways you wanted to do it, to set it up and do everything, I like all the windows. It pops it all out into sub windows for you for everything if you really like to do that kind of thing. And you could save, your layout, and get different users can have different layouts, all the things. I'm not going to talk about state. State's pretty complicated. Yeah, I think that's it. There is links in the chat to our GitHub and our website, and that's where you can find us on GitHub. If you find us on Discord and GitHub, again, we're always on Discord. If you say hi, I'll respond, unless I'm on a plane. So cool.
If anyone wants anything specific in a future Canvas training, your friends at techdirection.com. We're happy to work with Chris to try to figure something out to bring you what you need, and help your productions be better. Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I think that's it. I sort of dumped everything on everybody all at once, right? Like, it's a lot to take in all at once. But again, it's just, here's the high level, everything we can do. As you get into it and as you start using it, you'll get a sense of what your questions are, and feel free to reach out to me on Discord.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone, and hope you have a good rest of your day, or a good start to your day, or whatever it is. And we will see you next time. Thanks.